Hello neighbors, John, your neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. It's Sunday and we're going to shoot some samples. Now these are professionally packaged samples. They came to me actually from PWS Imports. They bring Wemyss family malts into Alberta, so it was nice of them to drop them off and I'm happy to work through it. So I'm going to look through the Wemyss family core range. They're an independent bottler. We're going to go with the Hive. We're going to go to Spice King, and then Peat Chimney. So I thought that's a pretty nice progression. We'll start sweet and light, or at least that's what they say, and we'll run off into peat. So if you've got anything from Wemyss, you know, they're an independent bottler. It's all Scotch. It's all blended malt. So pour something like that if you don't have one of these, or pour one of these and see if we get the same thing. Come on back. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said in the opener, you know, we're going to walk through this collection from the Wemyss family. They're an independent bottler, started 2005, and beyond that, I really don't know much about them. I've actually had, I think, the Spice King and the Hive before, but it's been a while, and I don't think I gave them enough cred, because what's interesting is these are all blended malts, which means it's 100% malt. Blended means it's coming from different distilleries. That's great. That's the only thing missing from being single malt. Instead of from one house, from one home, they've got barrels from different homes and they're blending it just like barrels are blended within a distillery, usually to release a Scotch. But anyways, they're all blended malt. They're all natural color and they're all 46%. So, you know, that's some pretty good stuff. And they are reasonably affordable, this core range. And since I think it might have been the Spice King that I was kind of ho-hum on, I've seen other reviews of some other releases, and one of them was a 12-year-old Spice King, and it sounded phenomenal. And that one was like half Highland Park stuff. So I don't know what's in them. I wish I did. This is the only one. We'll start with the sweet one, the Hive. The Hive says it's capturing the sweetness of Speyside. So this better at least have the majority of Speyside malt in it. It is, I was going to say the lightest, but I'll actually say the Peat Chimney and this one are fairly light. The Spice one is a little bit darker. On the nose, the Hive from Wemyss. True to form. Sweet, light, light pear, a little bit of apple. Yeah, sweeter, more pear, more peach, that kind of thing. Very light and sweet. Nice opening light Scotch. Let's try it on the palate. Sláinte. So not a lot of layers in the palate. Up front, I've got a little bit of actually malt and graham cracker, which is neat. That's not up front. I guess up front would have been the first sweetness as it rolled over the tongue, but very quickly it went into a light malt sugars. I'm mentioning graham cracker. I'm getting a bit of that in there. Better try another sip. I think my palate needs to wake up, so we'll give her another go. Not much better on the second sip. Absolutely, my palate need to say hello. This is first Scotch of the night. I should have maybe had a dram of something else. I usually do actually when I talk to you guys, but here I just went right in from whatever the day was to my first Scotch. Now it's starting to speak. I'm getting past the graham cracker, a little bit of oak, a little bit of spice, and getting a little more into the sweetness. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to have to come back to this one. What I want to say is it's a decent malt. It's definitely, you're going to get whatever you get from malt. For me, it's a slight nut. It's a bit of that graham cracker. It's a bit of, like, I know this is a barley malt. The nose was sweet and light and almost stone fruit. The palate doesn't give me enough of that. I guess, like, what I was thinking of is like Orchard House. This is just gonna speak sweetness, and you know, it has maybe that sweetness of honey that they're going for, but it doesn't have this sweetness related to fruit for me in my palate. So I'm struggling to really love this, but it's not bad at all. And given the pricing of things these days, the Hive is a nice light malt that would, I think, appeal to many people. A nice start. Moving over to Spice King, this I don't know enough about. As I mentioned in the opener, I saw a video of a fellow who was reviewing a 12-year-old, and he knew for some reason that it had like 52% Highland Park in it. That's awesome. I couldn't find what's in here. Since it's natural color, and it is very clearly darker than this Hive, I'm going to think that at least a portion of this has some ex-sherry, where this might be, and it tasted like all ex-bourbon. This is very relaxed, very core malt type. This, I haven't tasted it yet, but just based on that natural color, is already telling me, you know what, there's probably some sherry in here. Does it have Highland Park peat? I don't know. Let's go in on the nose. Spice King from Wemyss. Yes, it does. I don't know Highland Park that well, but I would say it's definitely got some nice sherry dark fruit already. Not a ton, but like right away we're there. And that edges and pushes immediately into the mind, into thinking a bit of chocolate or a bit of coffee. We're not there yet, but it's kind of there. And I suggest, if there's no peat in here, well, I'm wrong, because it sure smells like there is a little bit of peat. I would say that, absolutely. I would say this nose is like a little bit of earth, a little bit of moss, a little bit of, and now that I think maybe it's got Highland Park, I'm going to say that heathered peat. But either way, I would say a gentle peat, not iodine, not smoky, but a little bit of earth and a little bit of dark fruit. The nose, for me and my palate, is far more interesting. But this is far lighter. If you just like a really gentle Scotch, this one. Let's try this on the palate. Sláinte. That is very tasty and also surprisingly light. It has a little bit of coffee wafer, like, you know that dessert you stack up with cream and then you cut to try to make the lines? Those wafers, so it's a bit unsweetened chocolate wafer. It's got a little bit of peat. It's got a little bit of spice. You know, that nose that I thought maybe I'm running into Sherryland, it didn't get there. There's a little bit of dark berry, like really dark, like it's not tart like currant, but something, you know, like a cooked jam far back, but it is that coffee cooked jam. Interesting. Better try another sip, Sláinte. I would say this is probably even 15 parts per million. Like at first I said, oh, it's like 2 or 5%. This is peated. It is peated. It has to be. And if it's not, that's fine. This is what I'm getting in my palate. I'm not getting, if this is not a peat monster. This is not a, hopefully, well, we'll see what happens with the peat chimney. But when I'm saying the peat that I'm getting here, it is a bit of spice, a bit of oak tannin, a bit of earth, a bit of chocolate, a bit of smolder. And yeah, I'm getting smolder now, like actual, not quite fire, campfire, but a little bit of heavy on it. This aligns with where my palate is right now. Not overwhelming peat. I've been through a lot of peats lately, some really nice one, Coleman, Lefroy's, like just beautiful. It's not here. And this will give that spicy nature right now, but spicy from peat, where you get a bit of hug, you get a throat hug. It's not a runaway cracked black pepper. Like I have a lot of whiskeys that are peppery. This has some, I'm going to say white pepper, not a usual note for me. It's got some peppering on there, but it's not a runaway. But what makes it, to me, spicy is a bit of that peat hug. I'm probably overemphasized the peat on this, but we'll see when I go to this last one from Wemyss. This Wemyss one is called Peat Chimney. In keeping in line, they're all 46, all non-colored. I don't know about chill filtered. I almost said both, but I know that they're natural color. And this one is light again, back to the honey one right up here from Speyside. I don't know what's in it. Let's see what this one's like on the nose and palate. So I would add to the little bit of smolder here a little bit of iodine, a little bit of sea breeze, a little bit of brine. This is sweet. Confectionery sugar. Let's go honey, sweetness on that one. This one, now I've got what I sometimes, so I've got more peat, absolutely, a little more brine, a little more salt, but I also have a little more lemon drop. Absolutely more lemon drop on that. And this now, in contrast on the nose, does give me some of those sherry fruits. I struggled to find them in the palate, but it's there on the nose. Peat Chimney on the palate. Sláinte. It's definitely a full peated dram. It's not a kerosene or creosote or like a just a beat you up peat. Not at all. But that's its core thing. But what's interesting is that's its core hello, but I'm finding the malt in this almost the most gentle. Light lemon and just light, like light flavors, almost indescribable, little bit of fruit syrup in there, but just super gentle malt with all the peat, smoke, brine, salt. Another sip, Sancha. So this brought in a little bit of bitterness with the peat. Not in a bad way, not mechanical bitterness, not off-putting bitter, but I'm getting some drying, some bitter, some ashtray, some that kind of stuff with the peat. So, Peat Chimney is living up to that. Chimney, yeah. Ash, chimney, soot, that kind of stuff. It got there. So this absolutely has far more peat. If this doesn't have peat in it, I don't know. That's what I'm absolutely getting. Peat, sherry, and that's where more of those spices are coming from. And this, light, like the Hive says, sweet and light, and it is sweet and light. For me, right now, I think you could tell by the way I talked about it, the Spice King is hitting just right. It's got just enough character and interest and a little bit of peat and a little bit of spice and going on that I'm drawn to this one from my palate as my favorite. Then I'm not sure. If I just want some peat and just hello, I'd like a peated dram. I want to know what that's like a full or pretty close to full. Like I would say this is probably 30 parts per million. This is maybe 10, and obviously this has no peat. This one's failing to hit for me. The Hive is just not where I'm at right now. There's only a few drams, and one of them's down here, actually. I want to say this. Glen Grant, of course, Whiskey James gave that to me. This is one of the best expressions of very light fruit ex-bourbon that I've had in a long time. Like it is, I pour that and I'm like, ooh, this is ex-bourbon done well. This is fun, but it just doesn't get me where I need to go. This has the flavors that I like. And you know what, if I'm just looking for some peat, Peat Chimney is decent. Thanks for sharing it with me, PWC Imports. I'm saying it that way because I think Travis gave it to me, but I can't remember if it was Cam or someone else. Thank you for sharing it with me, and I just love to share with you guys what I'm getting. What have you? Do you like the Hive? Maybe it's a favorite, or Spice King? What do you think of the Wemyss family independent malts?